I'm waiting for Casey to connect this thing to Facebook.
I think it's good. You good?
We're good?
Yeah.
All right, we're live. Tonight we're continuing to Ask the Pastor series. You sure?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to answer a question tonight that I've received for years, and for as long as I've been a pastor. It's a question that I get often, and it's, what can I do about my child? And the question takes many forms, and it's been asked in many ways because I think different families struggle with different issues, and different children struggle with different issues. But here's a couple that I received recently. My teenage daughter says that she doesn't believe in God. She doesn't want to go to church, and it breaks my heart. Can you give me some advice? Here's another. My son is on drugs, and I don't know what to do. Can you please help me? Many parents are brokenhearted, completely baffled by their unbelieving son or daughter. Often these children have been raised in the church, and the parents just don't understand why. Many feel overwhelmed dealing with a child that's an addict. It can be a tremendously difficult thing to deal with. We love our children so very much. I've never been one of these parents, but I have been a rebellious child. I've been the child that put my parents through hell because I rebelled against God, rebelled against them, and was addicted to drugs and alcohol. I've also counseled many families, parents and children over the years, including many addicts. And I'm going to give you the best advice that I know how, and I've put this advice into 7 points. Number 1 is your life. Your rebellious child's real problem is not the drugs or the alcohol or sex or cigarettes or pornography or whatever crime they've committed or homosexuality or whatever. The real problem is that they desperately need to surrender their hearts and their life to Jesus Christ. The first and best thing you can do, if you only do one thing, is show them Christ. Show them that Jesus is real, that He is the way, the truth, and the life by how you live. By your words and your actions, your behavior, your example. You need to show them that Jesus is truly Lord of your life. We had a LIVE meeting last night. For those who don't know, LIVE is an acronym. It stands for Live in Victory Every Day. And it's a program we have here at Jackson Heights for those that are battling an addiction to drugs or alcohol. We meet the first and third Tuesday night of every month at 7 p.m. We meet in the church fellowship hall, and we share a meal together. We have a speaker, and then we have a group discussion. Last night, Darren Powell of One Promise. I think many of you remember Darren. Darren plays bass for the band One Promise, and he's also kind of the leader, the senior pastor of the group. And Darren talked about his own battles with drugs and alcohol, but he also talked about his son's battle with addiction. And he reminded us last night that your children usually don't do as you say, they do as you do. All right? Your children usually don't do as you say, they do as you do. They do what they see you do. They'll live how they see you live. So we come to the question, are you as a parent truly following Jesus? If so, that will speak louder than any sermon the pastor can preach or any words that you can say to your child. Don't just be a church goer. Don't be a Christian in name only. Don't say one thing and do another. Don't be a hypocrite, because your child sees right through you if you do. Your children will not be fooled, but they'll see if you really love Jesus. if you really and truly follow Jesus, they'll see it in your life, and that will be the greatest message that you could ever preach. There's an old story about a man who went to see a pastor after the Sunday morning service. And he went to the pastor and he says, "Pastor, I want to surrender my heart and my life to Jesus." And the pastor's like, "That's great. What did I say in my sermon that made you want to receive Christ?" And the man says, "Pastor, it's nothing that you said. It's the way my mother lived." Your greatest tool, your most powerful tool in reaching your child is your life. Your life. Number 2, pray. Pray. Often when we talk about prayer, I think it goes in one ear and out the other, because we think our prayers don't do a whole lot. I know sometimes I feel like I'm talking to the wall, or sometimes I'm in here and I feel like I'm talking to the floor. But God does hear our prayers. God does answer our prayers. And prayer is a way that God molds us and makes us into the people that He wants us to be. The people that you spend a lot of time with, they influence you whether you realize it or not. The people you spend a lot of time with, they wear off on you, and you wear off on them. When we spend time with God in prayer, He wears off on us. That gives us hope. That gives us joy. That gives us peace. In the midst of all the trials and the struggles that we face in this world, including difficulties in our own family or with our own children, pray. Pray. Pray daily for your children. Draw near to God in prayer. Pour out your heart to God in prayer. One of the greatest lessons I've ever learned was when I was reading a book my uncle Leroy had given me by Watchman Nee. And Watchman Nee talked about pray until the burden is removed. And so whenever I feel overwhelmed or whenever I'm really upset, I come out here to the church late at night and I get right there and I pray until I feel that burden removed. And sometimes I pray quietly. And sometimes I pray aloud. And sometimes I shout and I tell God how I feel. But I'll pour my heart out to God until I feel that burden has left me, until I feel better. And sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes I'm here for a couple hours. But we need to learn to pour our hearts out to God in prayer. Pray that God will send people into your child's life that they will listen to. Pray that God will send righteous, godly people into your child's life. Usually, your child is not going to listen to you. I don't know why that is. I can't explain it. If I could, I'd be famous because I'd write a book and everybody would buy it. I don't know why that is, but your child is likely not going to listen to you. I wouldn't listen to my parents when I was addicted to drugs and alcohol, but I would listen to my uncle at times. And my uncle could tell me the same things that my parents were telling me, and I would hear it from him. I would receive it from him. So ask God to send people into your child's life that they will listen to. People that will influence them for good. People that will impact their life for Jesus. And pray and ask God for the wisdom and the guidance you need to deal with a difficult child. If your child is an addict, pray that they will choose to get the help that they need. Pray that God will bring them to the point where they're willing to go into a detox center, to go into a rehab facility, to get into a good program. My mother prayed for me for years and years and years, and finally God saved her son and He changed my life. Number 3, I call the not so happy medium. I say not so happy medium because there needs to be a happy medium, some kind of compromise. But dealing with a difficult child is never happy. It's far from happy. If your son or your daughter rejects Jesus and is addicted to drugs or alcohol, don't pretend that everything is fine. It's not. It's not okay. Mark Twain famously said, denial ain't just a river in Egypt. Don't live in denial. You can't just deny that your child has a problem and make it go away. It's not going to go away. On the other hand, please don't beat your child over the head with the Bible or continuously lecture them. This won't fix the problem either. They're just going to tune you out. For every unbelieving child, the details are going to be different. Because every person and every parent is different. Each one will require parents to reach out in unique ways. Every situation is unique. However, not reaching out at all, ignoring the situation, is never the right thing to do. But neither is reaching out all the time to the point of browbeating them. Acknowledge the problem. Reach out to your children in love, but don't lecture and browbeat them. Don't beat them with the Bible. Love them with the Bible. A pastor friend of mine said that recently, and it resonated with me. Chances are that you've done one or the other if you have a wayward child. You've either ignored the problem or you've browbeat them and continuously lectured them and stayed on their case. Right? Usually a parent does one thing or the other. But we must find some kind of not so happy medium. And it's easy to say, but hard to do. So pray and ask God to help you find this not so happy medium. Plead with your child in love rather than rebuking them. If your son or daughter is not a Christian, then they're not going to act like one. And you can't expect them to act like one. They're likely going to lie to you. They're likely going to tell you whatever you want to hear. If your child is rejecting Christ, then there's little to gain by arguing with them that smoking marijuana or getting drunk is wrong. Smoking marijuana and getting drunk are symptoms, not the disease. The disease is they're lost and they need Jesus Christ. They don't need moral reform. They need a dramatic encounter with Jesus. Number 4, connect. Do your best to connect yourself and your child with believers who will be positive influences. My parents found a Christian support group where they connected with other parents who had children who were caught up in addiction. We're working on something similar to this here at the church with the LIVE program. We want to have a support group for parents and for spouses, for family members of addicts, that they can come and they can pray with each other, they can encourage each other, and they can be there for one another. And we're going to have that established here soon at Jackson Heights. My parents also helped to work it out, where one time when I had gotten in some legal trouble and I needed to do some community service, I did the community service with the pastor here at Jackson Heights at the time, the Reverend Terry Dennis, and I went around with Terry visiting hospitals and nursing homes. And that's how I did my community service. And Terry is the pastor who would eventually help me to get into Bethel Colony of Mercy. And that's where I got saved, at a Christian drug treatment or drug rehab facility. They also made sure that I spent time with my uncle, who is one of the biggest influences on my life. At one time, I had been put out of my house, and I went to live with my Uncle Leroy and Aunt Vivian. And I got even closer to my Uncle Leroy at that time. And he certainly influenced me to follow Jesus and help me out. He sowed many a seed. If there's a believer who your child trusts or perhaps likes to spend time with, like I like to spend time with my uncle, Leroy was the first one to introduce me to martial arts. He taught me, how to fish and how to shoot a bow and arrow. He made me a bow and arrow. I like to spend time with my uncle. And so he was able to talk with me and influence me for Christ in ways that I don't think anyone else was able to. If you can find a believer that has that type of platform that your child likes to spend time with, then they have an opportunity to minister to your child in a way that maybe no one else has. Right? I listened to my uncle. I wouldn't listen to anyone else. And if your child is battling addiction, connecting your child with other believers could mean encouraging them to attend meetings, like the Live meetings we have here at Jackson Heights. It can mean helping them to get into a faith-based rehab program, like the one I went to, Bethel Colony of Mercy in Lenoir, North Carolina. Another one I recommend is Hebron Colony in Boone, North Carolina. And the one for ladies that I suggest is Grace Home in Santee, South Carolina. Number 5 is communicate. Communicate. Use more than just talking to communicate with your child. My mama used to write me letters. We probably still have some of those letters somewhere. She would tell me how much she loved me. She would tell me how much Jesus loved me. She would talk about her concern for my reckless behavior. And those letters would touch my heart, and they would show me how much my mama loved me, even if maybe they didn't accomplish all that she wanted them to accomplish. Today, we can praise God for modern technology. Today, you can email your children. You can text your children. You can send them a message on Facebook. When you read something in the Bible that encourages you or that you feel led to share with your child, send them a short text message. Send them a short email. And by writing things down in a letter or writing things down in an email, you're able to think things through, and you're able to be more tactful. You're able to pray about what you write and maybe have a little more wisdom in what you say to your child. Number 6 is the goal. Remember that no strategy for reaching your son or your daughter will have any lasting effect unless the goal is to help them come to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. The goal is not for them to be a good kid again. The goal is not so they cut their hair and they stop cussing. The goal is not so they start listening to Christian music and not rap or heavy metal. The goal is not even so you can sleep at night knowing your child is not out doing Lord knows what and maybe going to die and go to hell. The reason that you plead with them, that you email and you text them, and you pray and you pray and you pray is so that God will open the eyes of their heart and they'll receive Jesus Christ. And He's not only the point, He's your only hope. The only hope for your child is Jesus. Only Jesus can save your child. You can't save your child. The pastor can't save your child. Only Jesus can save your child. And that brings me to my last point. Pray and keep on praying. Trust in God and keep on trusting in God. Day in and day out. It's not going to always be easy. There may be many difficult days, many sleepless nights, but God will bring you through it all. God is faithful. Don't ever throw in the towel. Don't you ever give up on your child. I don't care how bad the situation. I don't care how bad a drug addict. I don't care how long they're in prison for. Don't you ever give up on your child. You pray and you keep on praying. And don't you ever give up. So we'll review very quickly. Number 1 is your life. Show them Jesus is real by how you live. Number 2 is pray. Pray and keep on praying. Number 3 is the not so happy medium. Right? We don't want to deny the situation exists, but we don't want to browbeat our children either. Number 4 is connect. Connect yourself and your child with other believers, with positive influences. Number 5 is communicate. Use more than just talking to communicate with your child. Write letters. Use email. Number 6 is the goal. The goal is not some kind of moral reform. The goal is for your child to come to a saving faith in Jesus Christ. And number 7 is like Jim Balvano famously said, don't give up. Don't ever give up. Well, that's my advice on dealing with a child that is lost or addicted. I hope that these suggestions help you in your efforts to reach your children. If I can help, I'll be glad to help in any way I can, especially if you need help with your child getting into some kind of detox or drug treatment. Feel free to contact me, and I will pray and help you to the best of my ability. Are there any questions?